see what the actual responses are from BLG. Is they need to find a way to bounce back into this.
Yeah, they really do. Will we just see, Vi plus Lucian or Nami? Okay, well.
Oh, okay. All right. Sounds good. Nothing
right.
to see
No
here.
problem. Yeah, just salty run back number 3 of the first rotation. But I mean,
they don't
for
have
BLG,
to pick the
for
Nami
Elkanon,
here.
Yeah, true. But like, what else do you go with Lucian, right? Like,
Good question.
If you have
Well,
Lucian,
I mean, like, I'm saying, like, they could wait till third pick, I guess. Like, I don't, like, at least they know that Nami's not going to pick up. Hey, it's not banned away in the second phase this time. Let's go.
Okay, so change up from BLG. That almost certainly spells that it will be Nami at R3, so you know what the pick will be. It's telegraphed for FPX. What will the response be? Will they match the mid lane for care? Will they let his champion pool get pinched when they know he's against Syndra, a very powerful champion on this patch? Or will they prioritize Haoye's Wukong? That's what it's really going to be about, right? Picking between the Wukong or getting a pick now for care. I feel like Care's champion pool is deep enough to deal with a Syndra. So to me, even though it's a bit of a gambit from BLG, I'm not sure it's one that'll actually work into FPX. In my mind, sure, you can look at things like, I beg your pardon, the silence and just say, well, that's kind of the only thing I have to worry about, the Akali as well, and beyond that, what will Care really have? It's Syndra. It's one of those matchups where you're always going to be able to just go towards something super facilitative based and be happy enough to set up for Haoye and set up for LWX in the later stages anyway. So there goes the Akali. The Silas will almost certainly follow just on the grounds of comfort for FPX. You just ban away things like the Vi, you ban away perhaps, I don't know what else you'd really want out of Shun's hands, maybe just the Nidalee just to keep it away from him, but I don't feel like he would go towards it.
I think you're
They're still happy to go towards Bin. Alright, still happy to go towards Bin, and that also makes a whole bunch of sense. To be actually honest with you, now that I kind of recollect my thoughts, Shun's not been having the best series today. So maybe they just throw 2 bans towards Bin.
Looked real good. Game 1 looked real good. Game 2, don't look at it, alright?
Yes, don't look at it. Game 2 didn't happen. Ooh, what's going on in that? Looks good. Either way, is he brushing his teeth? What was in that gif? But yeah, remove away the Gwen, remove away the Camille. Probably the Camille is a more standard pick, perhaps, and just live happy with that. See what you can take into the top side, blind likely, into Bin BLG. They want the J score. All right, so
yeah, for sure.
I wonder whether they're gonna go towards something kind of more utility based for Xiaolaohu with Cassante gone again. It's really up to them, but BLG, the Vi's still on the table, and even though Shun had a bit of a shaky mid-game on it last game, I still feel like it's probably the best option available into Zeri to try and get her locked down, and it just makes a little bit too much sense. Now it's up to FPX to find an answer for Care, and also give Xiaolaohu a champion where, even if he loses in lane to Bin, he can lose gracefully and come towards those team fights very confident and ready to provide for FPX.
Yeah, you were saying when the Syndra got locked in for Yagao, facilitation needs to be the name of the game for BLG. Well, they're going to do it for a 3rd game in a row on the Vi, and I definitely like the adaptation from BLG with this Syndra. A little bit later parts of the game might go a little easier for them, but FPX definitely want to try to pick apart some lessons from the earlier parts of this series, and they take Bin's Gwen from game number 2, and right now they're hovering the Galio that was played by Yagao in game 1.
This could be cute. Now, whilst it might not have the best time into Syndra, it's still going to provide the setup. You're also kind of preemptively ready for a Camille pick, which could have come in on R5. Of course, Galio works both really well with Camille, but also really well against her. Being able to just use the Galio ultimate defensively on the target that's being Hextech ultimatum works great. Bin's going to go towards the Gnar, which we saw in the JDG series was so pivotal in their almost comeback against JDG, locking down Ruler and just, to not mince words, completely bodying 369 in the 1v1. Something that's very, very frightening to be staring down the barrel of going into a game 3.
It really is. And now that we have our comps lined up, both these teams still searching for their first series win of the spring split. Before we go on a 12-day break for Lunar New Year, a win here means a lot. You get to walk into your break
on the line. And like you say, you only meet every team once. So for BLG, a team with expectations sky high, losing a series to FPX early on as the crowd gives their Jayos, going 0-2 into the Chinese New Year. would not be a very positive omen for a lineup with so much talent. All FPX look to do in the early stages. I feel like, again, you've got Care now on a little more of a facilitative role. It's not the likes of the Kassadin anymore, or the Silas of game number 1. So it's going to be about following up on haoye's engages, in my mind, has to be. Or defensively using your ultimate to always make sure that Shun doesn't have an easy route in to Lwx. So a lot more riding on the shoulders of the FPX AD carry in this game. And also Xiaolaohu, who's, for the first time in this series, been handed a true damage carry inside of the Gwen. You know, I very temperamental with that, of course, Cassante. He loves his damage. But Xiaolaohu, we'll see if he can try and match Bin in that department. He's been put out a very, very strong Gwen performance in game number 2. But we saw what Gnar is very much capable of last week.
So
no slouch on either side.
Yeah, for sure. And I think something to keep an eye on here, especially in the early parts, it has led to some things, especially in game number 1, but Shun's pathing. I think Shun has been very aggressive to haoye. Maybe they have a conversation after this, like, why are you being so mean? But he has been consistently finding him at his buffs, trying to find that advantage just in the 1v1s, leading that into early ganks and things along those lines. So I'd like to see if that continues to be consistent for BLG and for Shun himself, or if haoye gets kind of a free pass for the early parts of the game and tries to focus in on those objectives later on.
Objectives have definitely been swinging between both teams in the early stages, right? Last game, a lot of it was actually BLG. Game number 1, it was kind of a bit of a mix of both, split between Dragons and Heralds. This time, what will the pool call be? We've seen this bottom lane matchup 3 times this series.
Yes, we have, Jamada. Yes, we have.
I know.
No disdain in my voice whatsoever.
I shouldn't have even said it, to be fair, but it's part of the point.
It is exciting in the own right, right? Like, you do get these fun little trades into level 2s, level 3s, a lot of aggression this series in particular from Elk.
Yeah, exactly. More about what will the objective setup be from BLG, knowing that you have this really, really strong bottom side. Because it hasn't been leveraged consistently from BLG's end.
And I think seeing this kind of steady path early on from Shun is definitely a different adaptation from BLG. Maybe that opts into kind of the scaling portion that they've changed up to some extent with their composition. But now it's haoye looking for a gank on bottom side first and foremost. There is a ward in the bush, so they could see it preemptively. But if Elk can on step forward just like that, the cleanse comes through immediately after the exhaust is used by Lele.
Very tentative from both sides there. Exhaust cleansed. There's no cleanse. There's not really too much to cleanse if Galio's not down there, so he's not going to feel too bad about it. Care. Not going to eat a gank. Just going to be a path through from Shun to secure the top side skull crab. Got the bottom side one, I believe, for the top side. So double skull for Shun. Always nice to feel that one on the end.
Look at this, Jamada.
The jungle. Yeah.
haoye is actually coming straight from lane, knowing that, you know, Shun was going to make it to the Scuttle Crab first, trying to be preemptively there towards top side, towards Xiaolaohu, who, again, if Bin gets ahead, like we've seen in other series, we've seen in this series just recently, like, he will carry the game, especially on his Gnar. So I like this kind of at least proactive play from FPX in a defensive manner, but I wonder if it is going to lead to resources kind of being given and left to the wayside.
You'd like to hope not, especially after that game number 2 performance. They still have a lot of strong hyperscaling in their own right. Gwen is a bit of a monster and also doesn't really care too much about Nami either. You know, one of the big things about Nami, she's very happy dealing with very short-range compositions like the one that we see on FPX's side, but tidal wave is coming down and you don't have anything else to use the W Shroud on. Just drop it. Walk through that tidal wave and you'll still get access to the backline. So Xiaolaohu, eyes will be on him for now. He's definitely falling behind in CS to Bin. To be expected, especially in the matchup itself. But we'll see if Xiaolaohu can find some windows of opportunity on Bin, perhaps after he's in mini, to try and lay down a little bit of pressure in return. For now though, Bin, as he has been pretty much all year long so far, it's only been 2 series to be fair, so I say all year long, winning his lane matchup as Shun almost.
Nice scanner timing at least.
A little bit of damage, real nice scanner timing. So we'll just back away, but also immediately find himself in front of the duo yet again. At the other entrance. A lot of pressure leaning down towards this BLG bottom side. Know what's going on. Elkanon still happy to take this trade though.
Oh, LWX in real low in the end there. Haoye is right there. Will be spotted out in the ward. Shun is right behind as well, but might see a little bit more, at least aggression to clear some of these wards, maybe even an early dragon if they want to. Care actually going into Yagao in mid lane as Shun does start up that dragon. I do want to just highlight, Care has been going toe-to-toe with Yagao, and we haven't talked enough, I feel like, about Yagao, where this man is literally just coming off the Summer Championship. He was Finals MVP last year, just last year. And I think to see Care going toe-to-toe, but stealing the style that BLG were going with early on in the series is a little bit of an interesting point to continue to watch, as Shun actually looking for the engage over the wall into Haoye. Both level 5 here. Bot lane's a little bit worse for wear. LWX might have some poke damage there, and it's just going to be a stalemate in the bot lane as mid laners are now on their way here as well. Care does have the heroic entrance.
He does, and up on the top side, looks like Xiaolaohu actually exchanged his ultimate for what looks like very little onto Bin. So that's a bit of a win for the BLG top side. And as we was kind of mentioning, pressure being traded back and forth. As just continues to remain here.
They just saw him there as well. That's going to be a cleanse used, the heal as well. So some summoner spells burn. Maybe it was just all for a bait. Trying to get Haoye caught in the lane, but back to Dragon goes Shun. I don't know if he's actually going to be able to get that ward in the back there. Might have just enough time there. Oh, he does it again. That's no. Feels bad. Feels bad. Won't go for the dragon because of that.
Sweeper 2, Shun 0. Is what I'm seeing there. Didn't quite have on behind him this time around to salvage it. But yeah, up on the top side again, we pan. Oh yeah, we get the picture-in-picture. So that's where the usage of that new work came in. Now Shun up on the top side will secure that Skull Crab. I think a lot of the pressure may be shifting towards the Herald. Well, Xiaolaohu actually just used his dash, but no one wants to collapse. I think the threat of Care, even though Yagao is right there, the threat of Care actually coming down with an ultimate is huge. But you can see Rift Herald being started up, and Bin is in Mega just for a couple more seconds. It's gonna time out, but it might be enough.
LWX is on his way, but he's way later than Elk, and the engagement is here for BLG. They need to take the fight now, or will just be a standard 5v5. It looks like they have waited just the amount of time. LWX will finally make his way, but Shun gets the Rift Herald there, I believe. The knockups come through. Haoye just gets killed by the power unleashed from Yagao. LWX is on the wrong side of the fight. FPX Care is now the target here for BLG, and he goes down right afterwards as well. LWX has reconnected with Lele, but FPX themselves have just been eviscerated with a double kill from Elk.
All right, I mean, BLG just find the better fight. FPX are too split apart, too many fronts. Care almost gets caught out at the very beginning. No flash to follow up on maybe some kind of taunt onto the backline. And BLG just having to take targets as they come to them. Simple as that. Very, very good fight for them. They were there in the river first. The rotation from LWX is a little bit slow. You'll see Care goes around the long way. It doesn't always matter when you can just ult on top of this, but unfortunately, it's a little bit too late. Yagao executes Haoye, and you can see, you know, LWX gets a lot of damage out, in all fairness to him, with the ultimate across multiple members, but there's just no follow-up. He has to try and tunnel onto finding Bin, but he just can't. Xiaolaohu left to his lonesome as the rest of his team kind of dies. He also wasn't able to follow up on the initial engage either. Not sure if the needlework was maybe just off cooldown at the very start of the fight as well. Disjointed from FPX. You can definitely see the parts moving and cogs turning for them, but BLG just have better positioning and a better setup for that fight.
Yeah, they do, and now they set up for the dragon in a better position than FPX are. 10 minutes in, the first dragon going over. We also had the Rift Herald, like we had said earlier, picked up by Shun. So full objective control so far for BLG. Also, 20 CS lead in the top side. So things going well for BLG so far in this early game with this 3-0 lead, with a lot of gold in their pockets. But it is about the continuation of that, because we have seen where scaling comes into these late game fights, and FPX has found the better of them. I think BLG has answered some of that in the draft this time around, but the question still remains.
I agree with you, Mazel. I think with BLG not being on the end of what I would call a negative draft.
Positive gaming moments only. All right.
Positive gaming moments only. Things look infinitely better from them from the jump. There's no, you know, X out of 16 Pepega in chat. I'm waiting for that precedent, so.
I still want to always circle back to, because we're getting to the end of this series, right? And this will be a while till we see these teams again. But I just find that this series has been such an interesting development for the way that these teams have approached this season so far, right? Where you have so much experience on side of BLG, tapered by some new pieces, right, to the rosters themselves. But on the other side, we had already mentioned 4 out of 5 members coming through the developmental structure of FPX and having a lot of new faces to join a literal world champion, not Mazel, in the bot lane of LWX. So it's just the fighting, the scrappiness, the back and forth has been really nice to see, especially in game number 2. And I'm hoping that we get a little bit more of that development here in game 3 and FPX show that they aren't just out of the fight.
Absolutely not. And again, you know, with all the outside context for FPX, even if the result doesn't go their way at the end of the series, I feel like they can always still very happily walk away with their chins held quite high. Stepping up to BLG with such young talent is no small feat by any means at all. But a win, like you said, both of these teams searching for their first win before the Chinese New Year break will definitely go a very long distance in the means of that just bump of confidence for the lineup, which especially can be so important for younger players too.
Yeah, exactly that. We do see BLG running out of time on the Rift Herald #1. Did have to utilize it mid lane. Get Yagao a little bit more gold. On, walk straight into the bait. And FPX have picked apart the bottom lane. Haoye almost dying to Elk in the end, but does get the shutdown kill. 450 gold. And the gold is split between Haoye and LWX. Rightfully so. Bin taking a really heavy trade against Xiaolaohu in the top side and will continue to push this lane.
Yeah, that's a real nice injection of gold for FPX to work with there. Definitely needed it. And Haoye Cyclone Decoy actually knocks up on to keep him in place. I mean, he had no flash. He was going to die from that position anyway. But just quite comical. He was able to find both marks whilst really looking for Elk, because who forces Bin back. But honestly, I feel like Bin was quite comfortable. Probably not going to die in many circumstances. You'll see what I was talking about here. On, no idea until he walks into the bush, gets knocked up. Knocked up again. On the opposite end, Elk does. Real nice from FPX's jungler. Like you said, shut down the gold, actually getting himself towards that Divine Syndra, so I think it was just about the perfect amount. Being able to pick up that shutdown on top of the initial kill itself. Now he actually has the damage. If he could actually make an appearance towards the top side, maybe fearing that Shun could be there. Bin has a lot of vision to work with, hence the confidence of him stepping up right now. And with no Cyclone, no need to work. I think that just spells the end of that engage, but Care could be in trouble.
Ooh. Cannot heroic entrance himself. He does get out there with a nice flash, so at least dissuaded from giving a kill over as Elk goes forward. A little bit of takiness there, and a tower shot as well. A couple of them from BLG. Takes a bit more damage than they would want to, as Lele was moving up towards mid lane. Looks like the tower will just be given, traded on both sides for both BLG and FPX respectively. Oh. Will be second tower, though, at least for BLG, and only first tower for FPX. Yep. Take that with what you will.
But Solargold going into LWX's back pocket. Someone who's going to have to step up for this game #3. Certainly hasn't been quiet throughout the series. It just feels like BLG have had a pretty good run of being able to shut him down quite consistently. And I mean, last game wasn't exactly about LWX either.
True.
Definitely about the Kassadin.
Yeah, we're about 15 minutes in now, though. We got pretty much standard first items across the board. The Trinity Forest, I love it for Bin. But now that we have both objectives on the table here, see a trade, Shun going for the Dragon, FPX all-inning on this Rift Herald will be the first objective for FPX. Where would you like to see them kind of give this gold of this Rift Herald over to this squad?
I mean, to me, I think just give it to LWX. I think Xiaolaohu is going to be fine once he actually makes it to that first item, whereas for LWX, the breakpoints really start to come in, you know, second, third item, right? So give it over to him. Seems to be the case. I think Xiaolaohu might still get the goal if that tower drops too fast, but it's not the end of the world. Kind of does, but
133.
no bother.
And at least Elk himself is going to get this solo gold of the tower as well. And I think Elk, having been on the Lucian this many times, pretty huge to see him getting a little bit of resources, at least siphoned his way 16 minutes in. We did get a second charge from that Rift Turret on the top side. A little bit more damage done, and Ben will have to defend that one a little bit harder as now Shun, the rest of BLG, moving in to pick position.
Primed and ready to see if someone on FPX's side will come and reclaim this territory, but stealing away the red buff from the jungle camps for now seems to be the aim of the game. Happy to do that. Bin up here. I think he's actually a full level up on Xiaolaohu as well. You can see XP par Bin halfway to level 13 already, whereas Xiaolaohu's not even level 12 right now. He is on a wave. That's a really, really big lead in the top lane, and speak about him and get the stat pop up as well. I'm sure those numbers mean loads of excellent things.
We'll see Ben actually get that tower back away, right? Get a little bit more pressure that way. And I think both teams at this point are just looking at scaling, waiting. It seems like we're just on rotation for objectives at this point, with a couple forays into adventure for BLG when Shun wants to try to find picks. But both teams playing this third match a lot more respectfully and a lot more hesitantly than I would say the other two games have gone so far. And I'm sure that'll pick up pace as things get a little bit more tense. And 2 dragons for BLG early on is already pretty big when they're looking to stack those dragons up for themselves. And I think that'll be next steps for FPX, as I'm sure second items will be coming a little bit after that.
Much more meticulous look to both sides' gameplay. And it's always kind of one of those things, unless you've had a super explosive series from start to finish. You do tend to see game 3s in the early stages commonly kind of just taper off in the early explosiveness, because all of a sudden, you know, it's best of one. No one wants to be the reason why you lose that series. So for now, like you say, much more calculated approach from both ends, but for now, working out a lot better for the side of BLG. Gold lead amassed primarily in CS, it feels like, between the solo lanes and the jungle. Of course, you know, up that extra tower, a couple of extra plates as well whilst those are up. What do you do have to remember? Just because the small buff to plates, an extra 100 gold in total, more or less. Quite large as WX.
That'll do it.
Huge chunk.
That's a good amount of damage just to taper it off, and I think that's been a consistent key for Elk this whole series. Just keep pressure on LWX as much as you can, but we also have seen LWX really expertly navigating the late game teamfights, right? And I think that has been always the case, and you know, why they won a world championship. But you know, it is about execution in team fights a lot of times, and we've seen Elk actually step up to the plate, not only against LWX, but trying to at least last year, and especially now. Being on a new team from Ultra Prime changes things up. Being on a new team with On changes things up. We still see that classic aggression. I think we've talked so much about these solo lanes, but to some extent, we're getting to a point where a lot of this last game is going to rely on LWX versus Elk.
Yeah, definitely. I think the short range composition as well from FPX is going to play into Elk's hands on that front. And as for LWX, he's got a yuumi on his back as Zeri, so he's always going to be able to find some angles, weave in, weave out. Just about dealing with Shun, making sure you're not getting jumped on from a flank by Bin.
True. We got second items actually completed here now for the decent amount of players, right? We got the Hole Breaker for Bin. We have the Shadow Flame, at least for Yagao, and now the Rapid Fire Cannon there for Elk.
Yeah. Items so important for many of these champions in this kind of game in particular. Syndra hitting that 2-item spike is huge. He's going to remove LWX. Very quickly, Yagao will scatter the weak. 1Q and an R. You'll see very quickly why Syndra is a priority pick. As up in the top side, you can just see in the picture-in-picture, Bin continues the pressure. Is FPX here in the river, which could definitely help them out a little bit, pick their targets. It means that BLG have to potentially walk through a choke. It's going to feel a little bit
Oh
bad
my
first.
goodness.
Culling.
So that all goes into clone. A lot of damage left on the
Yeah.
table there. So the big damage potential from BLG is kind of gone. They're just buying time for Bin at this point, who has TP. He also has his Mega Gnar coming up. You wonder if he just focuses in lane or comes to try to fight the dragon.
Yeah, he's looking for a TP now, I think. They want a ward for him.
Yeah, they don't have
decided to walk
necessarily
out.
the setup for it.
Mid lane pressure potentially is where he's going towards. So now FPX do have to make a decision. Xiaolaohu also still up in the top side.
He's pushing out the wave now. Dragon does reset. There is wards set up for both teams. I think a little bit better for FPX in terms of getting to the pit. 4,000 on the dragon. It looks like top laners are not going to join this fight. It's going to be a 4v4. And who's going to secure? Looks like FPX is in position, and they do get it. The fight afterwards, final chapter, is going to dissuade the follow-up from BLG, but they put a lot of damage down in the initial part. Got a Mega Gnar forming in the mid lane, does take that tier 2 tower as well. So Dragon for engage. Shun goes in, and Care is getting whittled down right now. Dash back from Elk though. Nicely done. Re-engage goes golden for Care, and Bin is here first. Care goes down. He's a sacrificial lamb, and Dragon for your mid laner. I guess they'll have to pay that tax.
Yeah, they will pay the tax for that indeed. It stops the Cloud Soul spawning in 5 minutes time. So, you know, caveat to it. They still find themselves 5,000 gold down. They lost the tier 2 in the mid lane as well. BLG still out-rotating FPX in the grander scheme of things. Even if they pick up that dragon, it still feels like a bit of a minor loss to take on the chin. And Bin is still putting so much pressure on the map. And it's very, very reminiscent, the whole break second item of his JDG series and performance so far. All he needs to do is find a rotation over and lock down Lwx, and it's pretty much a one-to-one so far. Find a solo kill onto Xiaolaohu as well. That's the checklist for Bin for this game.
Do you have any thoughts on the Roa for Care in the mid lane on the Galio?
Yes,
we were seeing, I
do.
feel like much more like tanky items or so, maybe even just AP. I think Yagao went straight AP.
Yeah, I think Yagao went into Everfrost, which in my mind, especially in pro play, is usually just the better item. But what Roa does do is give you a hell of a lot of health, especially since the durability match. I was searching for the word. Champions have so much, you know, extra HP per level. Building a Rod of Ages and only having that item, you know, be the one that give you HP, you can be, you know, level 16 with like 3,000 health. It's not off the cards at all. It's a lot of extra HP to work with. It's just not a lot of resists, as you can see.
It's not. Yeah, getting shredded there is Care, even with Lele on top of him. And haoye was just on the side lane there. Shun will move up, maybe getting engaged himself. He's going for it because he has to. And that's a huge pick from FPX.
Yeah, and again, you know, Shun mid-game engages between game 2 and this game here. Not exactly on a good track as Elk
been real rough.
Yeah, it really has. Elk searching for a bit of a push forward there. Bin on the bottom side whilst this is all going on. Still very much hammering away, chipping away at what he can, but FPX, are they eyeing up a Baron? I feel like this is definitely territory for a throw if they do start up, but not a lot of ultimates available to those there in front of the pit, just Yagao. So I think cleverly backing away. I think we're just going to have a bit of a map reset, Mazel.
Yeah, it looks like that, as BLG will just lick their wounds, get back out onto the map, especially Shun. Maybe rethinking some of those engages here, but will not rethink going for the Scuttle Crab because aggression is the name of the game. As haoye got it? Oh, Shun got it. All right. Well, you know, you win some and you win some for Shun, in at least the Scuttle Crab battles. But it is still neck and neck in this game, and I think that's something important. Even with the gold discrepancy, we have seen where FPX are starting to come to life. Picks will make a big difference in that, and if FPX can kind of stick together and maybe return to turtle form, things start working well for them.
Yeah, things can start working well. It's just about actually waiting for it to happen. They need one of those miracle fights. They need Lwx to actually hit that Infinity Edge spike. And then they'll have the damage they really need, in my mind, to step up to BLG.
That's just gonna be a Baron start.
Yeah, they don't want to wait for that spike to come in. They want to actually get this started now. Yagao can play bodyguard. On can always turn around with the tidal wave. And FPX, I mean, they know
Try to
now,
give
it's
it.
far too late.
I mean, haoye can go in, but yeah, it's better to, I guess, regroup and rethink of the next strategy in this situation, as Baron does go over to BLG. They have Dragon coming up in about 35 seconds, so they'll easily push out a lot of these waves, keep Bin as a constant pressure on the sideline with this Baron buff, and essentially just secure themselves a sole point.
Yep, pretty much. I think FPX, problem is when you take a look at the inventories, the item breakpoints that are just kind of here right now, you know, item completions are so important in League of Legends. That's really how you track strength. It's not always about the gold. When you've got those sort of incremental 2,000-3,000 gold leads, obviously we're working with almost the 7,000 in this game. You always have to just look towards what items have actually been completed, because you can have a team be ahead in gold, but technically be behind an item just because of how cheap some can be. It's very rare, but it does happen. But in this case, you can just see BLG are just in front of the race on that side. Jungle, mid, top. AD is about even. Bottom side as well on and Lele.
18 stacks till, or I guess 17 now till we get the final evolution. Is it? It's 120, right, for Syndra?
Yes, I think it's 120. And that's
a little
just
bit
a
off of that
15% increase in AP.
And the execution, or is the execution?
I think the execution is 100 on the ultimate. I have to read up on this. This is stuff that I should know. Oh,
hey, no, you're good, you're good. We, you know, it's a good season. So BLG are doing what they've done, I feel like, constantly, and moving into the red buff of FPX, but haoye has Lele on top of him, so now gets a little bit more even in these skirmishes. Has been continuously trying to push in this side lane here. It's just become a 4v4 and a 1v1 on the side. And who comes out on top will win this game. Yagao is positioning over here, but haoye moving out, trying to clear some of this jungle vision from BLG as they just continue to oppress the side of the jungle of FPX.
Slow suffocation might be the death of
They got this
FPX.
catch down. Oh my god, power unleashed as well will secure the kill. And now haoye as well immediately gunned down by Elk in the line of duty. We also have Care maybe taken down here as double kill comes through for Yagao, who finds himself at 3-0. We also have been continuously pushing, like we had mentioned earlier, in the top side. And Xiaolaohu, content with trying to push in the mid lane, looks like he will finally start backing, but the base is already destroyed. And Xiaolaohu, I don't know if you know that you are not backing, my friend. There you go. There you go.
You know, I said slow suffocation. It's looking like a quick suffocation at this rate. That was just a snap engage onto Lwx, just rotating down. He just felt he had the space. He didn't. Spoiler alert, just gets one shot. And that's two inhibitors off the back of one pick. And now all of a sudden the game, which was slow and steady, but still tilting in the ways of BLG, feels all of a sudden even the more heavy-handed to try and pick up a win for Lwx. Yeah, just a little bit disrespectful. The blue ward, if it just came in before the rotation, it would have been fine. But yeah, Syndra doesn't need that extra 15 stacks
apparently
to do that. And the backup that tried to save the FPX AD carry very quickly slaughtered BLG. One more inhibitor left. I really feel like they need to wait 2.5 minutes for either the Soul or the Baron, but they may just do just that. They are all ARMing in the mid lane for now, whilst Bin continues his charade on the side lane.
Yeah. I mean, they have a 10,000 gold lead at this point, so a lot of extra given over to BLG. Even though On takes a huge chunk of damage from the Ultra Shock Laser, it's hard for FPX to wrest control right now from BLG. And it's a bit unfortunate that this is like the culmination of the game, unless we get some crazy miracle comeback from FPX themselves as they get knocked back from that Scout of the Week, and Ben is just stacking up his Mega Gnar here. BLG have really turned it on to kind of clean up a lot of the mistakes from earlier, and now Ben with his Mega Gnar up 3 back in the final chapter doesn't do enough. Tear also just bursted down by the culling. The cease and desist was left to the last moment, and more kills raining. A triple kill, a quadra kill for Yagao, and a showing from BLG to right all the wrongs, claim their first series win of Spring Split 2023, and make good on the promise that was this roster put together in the offseason.
that was the kind of performance in game number 3 we needed from BLG to reinstate a little bit of confidence in the lineup.
Yeah.
And that definitely is going to feel good going into the New Year break for BLG. Like you said, you know, the rebuild of the potential super roster came very, very close in the JDG series. It could have gone either way, honestly. They fell short there. Didn't fall short here against FPX, who we will talk very briefly about. Give them credit where it is due. That's a complete rebuild on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, exactly.
In that lineup. So to stand up to BLG for 3 games, bring it the distance, definitely credit to them. And definitely as the season go on, we'll expect them to continue to develop.
Care. Going toe to toe with the summer champ, finals MVP himself, Yagao in the mid lane. A lot of little interesting stories. Haoye really turning it on in game number 2, even somewhat in game number 3 against a very aggressive Shun. And we said it going into this one, there's a very different approach, it feels like, this year for both these teams and how they're structuring their teams and how they're kind of approaching talent for their teams. And we got the would-be super team established again for BLG with a couple different pieces here from other organizations, you know, forming around Bin. And on the other side, FPX is holistically formed around LWX with the developmental roster that has been built up through the FPX plays system. And I think saying and seeing this kind of go through for BLG is rightfully so. I feel like on paper they should have won this one, but the way it happened, massive props to FPX. And I think that will be something to hold on to going into the offseason, although not having found a series win yet. But then turning attention, right? BLG, Bin, my man, he gets the win, deserved after that monumental performance against the JDG team and not coming away with the win of that one. Had even almost a solo carry performance in game 2 of this series, and the whole team's firing on all cylinders, maybe not every single one, maybe leaving 1 or 2 out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think to me, it's just about actually, you know, again, confidence boost, a re-confidence boost for BLG. And I think even though, yes, it wasn't the cleanest throughout a lot of the series, getting the result rather on the board is the important part, right? Actually making sure that you can go into the next challenging year without actually, you know, being 0-2, being lossless. I think it's a big confidence boost. And even for FPX, I think this performance, you know, sure, you didn't win, right? But you're playing against BLG. It's the roster that we're expecting to, you know, be sort of top 3, top 4 at kind of the bare minimum. With this rebuild, those are the expectations set on them. FPX is not about that. It's about building through spring into summer, most likely, and coming out swinging in that game number 2. Even game number 1 was, it had its moments. It was very close for them as well.
I'm just gonna make a